Welcome to part 3 of this new video series that I'm running for new users and seniors using smartphones. Now, you may notice in part 2 that when I was doing the comparison shots between the iPhone 4S and all the other smartphones, that the 4S seemed to have a narrower field of view, and the field of view is basically what we suggest. It's the angle at which you can see from the camera. So with the iPhone 4S it was a much narrower field of view. When you compare that to the standard lenses of the modern smartphones, we were getting a lot more view in those shots. Now, the reason for that, without going into too much technical and optical specifications, is due to what's called the focal length of the lens. Now, it all stems back to our photographic days using film cameras, the 35mm film camera. If you wanted a normal field of view, then you'll be using something like a 50mm lens, and that was the nifty 50 that we consider today. If you wanted a semi-wide angle view, then you would go for a 35mm lens, and if you wanted a full wide angle lens for your landscapes, you would go for something like a 28mm. Now, the iPhone 4S has a 36mm lens, which is the semi-wide if you like, but the standard smartphones these days has a 26mm or 25mm focal length. So in olden days that would be considered a extreme wide angle lens. Gives you more for your money, you're getting more of a landscape, but it does present some problems in terms of if you get too close to that lens for taking portraits, you get that terrific distortion where the noses appear to be much bigger than their ears. So you have to be watching out for those sort of things if you're using the ×1 lens on modern cameras. That's why I love the iPhone 4S with its 35mm field of view. It gives me a more natural looking shot. Now, I've set up the camera to show exactly that again. So we've got the iPhone 4S and we've got the iPhone 13 Pro, the 26mm of the iPhone 13 Pro versus 35mm of the iPhone 4S. And you can see the pictures on screen now. The field of view from the 4S is much narrower, so we're getting a much closer, if you like, view of the subject compared to the wider angle view of the iPhone 13 Pro. It's the same with all the other smartphones, the Google Pixel 9, the Samsung Galaxy S24, 25, etc. They also have 25 or 26mm focal length lenses for that ×1 lens. Now, it's been suggested that if you want to overcome those limitations of using that ×1 lens with its distortion, is to use the ×2 setting of these cameras. Now, the ×2 setting on these cameras isn't an optical lens, it's derived from that ×1 lens, and we use ×2 digital zoom. ×2 is probably just about okay. Go beyond that and you start to notice some artifacts, especially in low light. Now, I would recommend that ×2 is the maximum digital zoom you use with these cameras, otherwise you run into distortion and artifacts which destroy the resolution of your pictures. If you use ×2, it does mean that you have to step back a little bit to get the same angle or field of view, which means that you're moving the subject further away from the lens, which reduces that close-up distortion. Now, I'm going to set up a subject in the garden so I can actually do this on a tripod. We'll have a subject which I'll frame at 26mm ×1, and I'll frame it again, the same framing, at ×2. It means I'm going to have to move the camera further back. You'll notice that the distortion is less, but we don't get that nice background blur that you would get if you used a ×2 optical lens. You can do the same again by just using the ×1, and then in your editing program crop it to ×2. You'll get exactly the same result as you can see on screen. With cameras like the iPhone 13 Pro up to the iPhone 15, you had a ×3 optical lens, which gave effective focal length of something like 77mm, which was ideal for portraits. If you use ×3 now on the iPhone 16 Pro, it again is digital zoom from the ×1, so the results aren't as good as using the previous version of camera with its ×3 optical lens. So it depends really what you're into. If you're into portraiture, I would suggest that the iPhone 13 up to the 15 is a better camera to use than the iPhone 16, which has a ×5 periscope optical lens. Okay, let's look at how we actually select these lenses on your particular smartphone. And to show you that, I've got three smartphones set up here on the table. I've got the Google Pixel 9 XL, we've got the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, and we've got the iPhone 15. If we start with the iPhone 15, which is one we've been using for most of the filming in this series, on the basic camera app interface, you can see I've got the camera selected. We've got the ×1, which is the normal default operation. We've got the ultra wide, which is 0.5, and we've got the telephoto, which is ×3. If I wanted to select the ultra wide, I just need to tap the 0.5, and that will select the super wide lens. If I want the telephoto, I just tap ×3. If I wanted an individual zoom position, so if I want to go 1.5 times, then I tap and hold the up 1 times button, and that brings up a scale, and then I can move that around till I get the magnification I want. I said probably use ×2 as the maximum, as there you'll get the best images, as you'll see later in the video where I show you some examples. On the Galaxy, again, you got the super wide, which is 0.6. You got the 1 times, which is the normal lens. We've got the 3 times, which is a digital zoom preset. We've got the 5 times optical, and we've got the 10 times optical. So you've got the option there. And again, if you wanted intermediate zoom, press and hold that particular lens button, and then you can adjust the digital magnification to whatever you wanted. So again, ×2 would be my suggested limit. With the Google Pixel, again on screen you can see the operation. We've got the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto. So the ultra wide would be selected by just pressing the UW. If you wanted the normal lens, you press W. If you wanted the telephoto lens, press T. Intermediate zoom again, so if I press the W and then press and hold, again you can see we get a scale. I can go up to 5 times digital zoom using the standard lens. Again, I would recommend you don't go past the ×2. So that's how you would select those individual lenses if you wanted more digital magnification, if you wanted to zoom in a little bit to your shot. Remember, ×2 would be my recommendation. You won't want to go beyond that, otherwise you'll find that your resolution is decreasing and your images might look a little softer, and in low light you might get noise artifacts. Well, that's it for the video. I want to show you now some examples where I've shot with the ×1 and the ×2 lens on the iPhone 16 Pro. Just give you an idea of the sort of quality you can get if you stay within that ×2 limit. Okay, let's look at how we actually select these lenses on your particular smartphone. And to show you that, I've got three smartphones set up here on the table. I've got the Google Pixel 9 XL, we've got the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, and we've got the iPhone 15. If we start with the iPhone 15, which is one we've been using for most of the filming in this series, on the basic camera app interface, you can see I've got the camera selected. We've got the ×1, which is the normal default operation. We've got the ultra wide, which is 0.5, and we've got the telephoto, which is ×3. If I wanted to select the ultra wide, I just need to tap the 0.5, and that will select the super wide lens. If I want the telephoto, I just tap ×3. If I wanted an individual zoom position, so if I want to go 1.5 times, then I tap and hold the up 1 times button, and that brings up a scale, and then I can move that around till I get the magnification I want. I said probably use ×2 as the maximum, as there you'll get the best images, as you'll see later in the video where I show you some examples. On the Galaxy, again, you got the super wide, which is 0.6. You got the 1 times, which is the normal lens. We've got the 3 times, which is a digital zoom preset. We've got the 5 times optical, and we've got the 10 times optical. So you've got the option there. And again, if you wanted intermediate zoom, press and hold that particular lens button, and then you can adjust the digital magnification to whatever you wanted. So again, ×2 would be my suggested limit. With the Google Pixel, again on screen you can see the operation. We've got the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto. So the ultra wide would be selected by just pressing the UW. If you wanted the normal lens, you press W. If you wanted the telephoto lens, press T. Intermediate zoom again, so if I press the W and then press and hold, again you can see we get a scale. I can go up to 5 times digital zoom using the standard lens. Again, I would recommend you don't go past the ×2. So that's how you would select those individual lenses if you wanted more digital magnification, if you wanted to zoom in a little bit to your shot. Remember, ×2 would be my recommendation. You won't want to go beyond that, otherwise you'll find that your resolution is decreasing and your images might look a little softer, and in low light you might get noise artifacts. Well, in the next video I want to look at the application on your smartphone where you can take the photographs. So it's a smartphone app, basic camera app. Using the shutter button to expose sometimes gives you camera shake, and if you've got problems with your hands in gripping these phones, I'm going to show you some ways of adding grips to these phones which will improve the ergonomics of those cameras, and also how you can trigger the shutter by using either Bluetooth devices, the volume up button, a wired link, or Bluetooth, as you'll see in the next video. If you've not already subscribed, please do click that subscribe button and the bell notification icon, and that will really help this channel grow. So until the next video, thanks for watching, please do take care, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Goodbye for now.